My husband is a bit of a drama queen. He is needy when he gets sick, very in touch with his feelings, communicative. I love him, but sometimes he's a bit much. Last week I got COVID. I was in bed for 4 days and he slept in the spare room so that he minimized exposure. Last night he slept in bed with me for the second night back. At 1 a.m. he rolls out of bed onto the floor moaning loudly. I thought he was having a heart attack. He gets up and walks into the bathroom and then falls to the floor. I was up now and trying to figure out what to do because all he was doing was moaning. He finally says pour water over him, so I get a cup and pour water over him. I felt him, he was pretty hot. So I figured he got COVID. Then he tells me to put on the shower for him. So I did. He's still laying on the floor not talking. He gets in the shower and then stays for a while. He sat in the shower. He finally gets in bed, and I was prepared to get him some medicine to bring down the fever, and then he tells me he had a bad dream. This whole drama was all because of a freaking bad dream. Not COVID. Not a heart attack. A bad dream where he was being stabbed repeatedly. To top it all off, he fell right back to sleep, and I was up for 2 hours trying to get back to sleep. Needless to say, I woke up pissed. He felt I wasn't being sensitive to his needs. I've never had a bad dream like that, so maybe I was, but at the same time, who does that? Wakes their spouse up in a panic, not communicating, and then complete disregard for their sleeping spouse, just hops back into bed like it was no big deal and then gets his feelings hurt because I'm tired and irritated. A little backstory: my dad is a narcissist and frequently did things like this to my mama and us. He would lay down in the middle of the hallway when he was sick and make us walk over him while he moaned in agony. He would throw temper tantrums because he wasn't the center of attention, or he would have angry outbursts and throw things. I had a little PTSD flashback because of what my husband did last night. I'm an officially diagnosed person with PTSD caused during my childhood by my father, and have participated in EMDR therapy. I also take prescription medicine and melatonin to go to sleep and stay asleep. So sleep is an important commodity in my world. We've been together for 3 years and married for 2. This is not our first marriage. We are in our 50s and have grown children. None of my other relationships had random nightmare drama. Update: after posting this and getting feedback, I let him know about my past experiences with my dad, the fact that I was genuinely debating calling 911, and asked him if he'd done this before. He also knows my sleep troubles, so we talked a little about that. He and I really do have a great relationship. I love him. I just didn't know how to respond to this because it's never happened to me before and I was super tired this morning. I even took a nap today, which my doctor says I shouldn't to keep my sleep regular. I found out that this has happened before about 2 years ago, before we started living together. He says it happens when he's stressed. He and I don't share finances except for home expenses, and he's a freelancer. He's stressing about taxes. I did tell him that we need to see a doctor if this gets any worse, just to check if there's anything we can do to alleviate this in the future for him, and he needs to talk to me about what's stressing him. Comment 1: Nah. He may not have been fully awake or aware of what was going on. Night terrors are no joke and people of all ages can have them. You're frustrated because you're short on sleep, and because you had previous bad experiences with your father doing this sort of thing. However, if this isn't a routine occurrence, don't hold it against your husband. Comment 2: YTA. He didn't wake you up on purpose, and as someone who has really awful night terrors, they really can be that bad. I'd recommend he sees a therapist because that sounds like what it could be. Comment 3. My husband has weird episodes like this. One night he shook me awake and was yelling, "What is that?" over and over. I freaked out because I thought something awful was happening, but quickly realized he was just having a nightmare. Apparently he saw a floating demon head. I saw nothing but a half-awake man acting like a lunatic. Story 2. My husband and I, both 26, got married a couple of weeks ago. During the wedding, my husband's 4 older sisters, all 10+ years older than him, surprised him with a dance to honor their mom who died when my husband was very young. He danced with each sister individually before all 5 of them danced together. It was such a beautiful moment and a standout for all the right reasons for my husband and his sisters. But during their dance their stepmother started kicking up a fuss. It started with her trying to storm onto the dance floor and insisting on the dance being with her instead. 2 of my sister-in-law's husbands were trying to stop her. I went over and tried to calm her down, but she was furious. She was talking about assaulting my sister-in-laws for stealing the moment from her. I had to ask sister-in-law's husbands if they would help me get her out because she was going to ruin it for them otherwise. She didn't like that and told me she's my husband's mother and if a mother-son dance was going to happen it only made sense for her to do it. She called me a bitch for helping them plan this and just kept repeating that she was his mother and I had no right to remove her. I told her she was never his mother and her behavior right now just proved that. Then I alerted security at the venue that we didn't want her to come back in, which they thankfully listened to. It did cause a small disruption but my husband and sister-in-laws didn't notice it at the time. I did let him know. Father-in-law didn't notice either. He was in another area watching his kids dance. When I told my husband he was appreciative of me for stepping in and his 2 bills who helped. His stepmother's fury has not faded though. She has caused such an upheaval and my husband and his dad are fighting about it now too. My husband told them I did nothing wrong and only spoke the truth. His stepmother said she has raised him since he was 7 and she has done so much for him and that the strain from that going unappreciated almost broke them up once already. This was a year ago. Father-in-law and his wife separated for 6 months before working things out. But it did come close to them filing for divorce. My husband and sister-in-laws were not upset by that thought at all and would have welcomed an end to all contact with their stepmother. I have always known that they tolerate the stepmother for their dad. This includes my husband who was a child when she married his dad. This does not appear to be blowing over and I hate that this has strained the relationship my husband has with his dad. Should I have kicked her out of the wedding and bit my tongue? Should I have kept her away and waited to see if she would calm down? Comment 1. NTA, she wasn't honoring his mom, she was competing with a ghost. This wasn't about wanting a mother-son moment, it was about her ego. She saw your husband and his sisters honoring their actual mother and couldn't stand being sidelined. A good step-parent would have supported them. Instead, she tried to hijack the moment, acted like a child, and got herself kicked out. That's on her. Comment 2. Honestly, she was out of line and trying to hijack a moment that wasn't about her at all. If she wanted to have a moment with her husband, there's a time and place for that, but this wasn't it. She did the right thing, especially since her husband backed her up. Comment 3. He was honoring his mother and she made it about her. If she's known him since he was 7 and he didn't take the time to honor her, it shows what type of woman she has been. Time to start cutting people off. Story 3. I, 18F, was raised by my grandmother after my dad passed away when I was a kid. My mom has never really been involved. She's been around, like she technically exists, but emotionally and practically, she hasn't raised me. It was always me and my grandma, figuring life out together. After my dad died, I received monthly financial support from the state due to his passing, and my grandmother helped me save most of it. That money was meant to help me in the future, especially since we didn't have much. A couple of years ago, my mom randomly came over and had this great idea. She suggested that we use my savings to buy her a car. She said she'd use it to drive me to school, take my grandma to her doctor's appointments, help with groceries, stuff like that. At first, it sounded helpful. She made it seem like the car would be useful for the whole family and that she'd be doing something good for us. So, we agreed. I trusted her. We bought her a car using the money I'd been saving for years. Fast forward a bit and surprise, she barely drove it. She was constantly scared of driving, especially parking, and kept saying she was afraid of getting into an accident. The car just sat there most days. Meanwhile, I was taking the bus, walking long distances, and trying to juggle university life while we literally had a car we paid for just sitting outside. Then I got my license. I thought it would be simple. I'd ask her to let me use the car to get to class or run errands for my grandma. But every time I asked, she gave vague excuses like I might need it later or let's see next week. It was always pushed off. It started to feel like she was just keeping the car for the sake of keeping it, even though she wasn't using it and it was technically mine. Eventually, I snapped. I told her that if she didn't give me the car by the end of the day, I'd go to the police and tell them everything, how she used my benefit money to buy herself a car under false pretenses and then refused to let me use it. She got super quiet and ended up giving me the keys, but now everyone's saying I went too far, that I threatened my own mother and acted out of line. I don't know. I didn't want it to come to that, but it felt like the only way she'd take me seriously. Comment 1. NTA. She used your money for a car she barely used, then wouldn't let you use it. You already asked nicely but ignored you, so yeah, threatening to go to the police was the only way she'd listen. You did what you had to do. Comment 2. Remind everyone attacking you, she's a deadbeat, who didn't raise you. She ceased being your mother when she dumped all the responsibilities of being a mother on your grandma, then comes back when money is involved and manipulated you into buying a car for her under false pretenses of driving you and your grandma around to do basic things. She lied to you, lied to your grandma, and probably lied to the others to spin the story as her being the victim. Going forward, if she asks for money, or to buy her something, tell her to jog on. Comment 3. NTA. Technically it is her car. Going to the police won't do anything. The title is in her name, that is the legal document that matters. Get the title in your name, otherwise she can go to the police and claim it as stolen. Nobody in the law cares who paid for the car, all that matters is the title. Get that fixed, now. Story 4. So I, 30F, have a friend, Ryan, 31M, who's been in my social circle for a few years now. We met through work and became friends after bonding over shared interests, and he's generally a good guy, funny, kind, etc. He's been single for a while and recently started asking me to hook him up with one of my single friends. At first, I kind of brushed it off and said they weren't really his type, or they weren't looking right now, but he kept pressing. Eventually I told him I wasn't super comfortable playing matchmaker, especially when I've seen how he handles relationships. For context, Ryan has a bit of a pattern. He jumps into things super fast, gets clingy really early on, like texting 24/7 and needing constant reassurance, and then when there's any sort of conflict or miscommunication, he either shuts down or spirals into guilt-tripping behavior. He's admitted he has some abandonment issues, which he's working on, but from what I've seen, he hasn't really done much besides acknowledge them. I've had female friends tell me his past dates were emotionally exhausting. So I was honest with him and said, "Look, I care about you, but I don't feel comfortable setting you up with someone I care about when I think you still have some emotional stuff to work through." Well, he got really offended. Said I was judging him and basically called me fake for being his friend but thinking so little of him. I told him that being honest was me being a friend, and that I'd rather be straight with him than set up a situation where someone ends up hurt or awkward. He hasn't responded to me since, and now I'm wondering if I was too harsh or out of line. I genuinely didn't mean it in a mean way, but maybe I should have just lied or kept it vague. Comment 1. NTA. It's not your job to play matchmaker for friends. Also, I have had friends where when I asked if they can help set me up right after a breakup, they set me straight and told me to sit in my feelings for a bit and go through proper healing. I will always be thankful for that. He needs to self-reflect a bit and stop pressing the point. Comment 2. He proved you right with this response, unfortunately. He should respect your decision even if he doesn't agree. Either he acknowledges he has issues he needs to work on or at the very least respects the boundary. Even if he disagrees with you, just acknowledge you're not comfortable with it and move on. NTA. I, 27M, Went on a second date with a woman, 26F, I met through Hinge. The first date was casual and fun, so I suggested grabbing dinner and drinks on a Friday night. She agreed and asked if it was okay to invite a couple of her friends to join for drinks after we ate. I said sure, I'm all for meeting someone's circle. Dinner went well, and around 9 p.m. we met up with her two friends at a nearby bar. At first, everything was fine, but after 2 rounds, things started to shift. Her friends were clearly trying to size me up, asking me a bunch of questions about my job, salary, car, and even how much I paid for my shoes. I laughed it off, but it got awkward fast. Then my date started making little jokes at my expense, calling me Mr. Budget Boy because I ordered a cheaper beer, and laughing when one of her friends asked if I still lived with roommates. I do, because rent is insane. They all laughed like it was the funniest thing ever. At this point, I was over it. I told her I was going to head out, and she immediately asked for a ride home since she had left her car at the restaurant. I said, I think it's best if you find another ride. She looked stunned and asked why I was being rude. I told her honestly that I didn't appreciate being made fun of all night. She and her friends got defensive and told me I was being too sensitive and couldn't take a joke. I just left. Later, she texted me saying I abandoned her and made her feel unsafe. I didn't respond. I don't think I did anything wrong. She had 2 friends with her, in a public place, and Uber exists. Still, I feel a bit